Welcome back to Here's Next Door. Thank you for joining us for another Station Cribs. Today we are at the Negaunee Fire Department in Negaunee, Michigan, in the Upper Peninsula. We're going to be talking to Brian. He's going to show us around. So let's go take a look. Hello, are you
Hi,
Brian?
I am.
All right, nice to meet you finally.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for making the trip.
Yeah, thank you for inviting us in. And this was an awesome trip coming up here. I didn't realize how long the Upper Michigan actually was.
Yeah, it's a long way. The UP from one end to the other is basically the same as the height of the Lower Peninsula, so it can be quite a travel.
Yeah, but it was beautiful. I mean, the two roads that you have basically to choose from, I think we came in on 41 or something like that.
Yep.
It's pretty much frontier area there, a lot of wilderness. I looked out for moose, I looked out for deer. I didn't see any this time. Maybe I'll see some on the way back.
Oh, yeah.
But all of a sudden, as I got into Negaunee, civilization popped back up.
Yep, we're one of the bigger towns in the UP. Not what we used to be, but it's definitely one of the populated areas.
Right. So what was this house originally, and when did it form? And tell me a little bit more about your house here.
So this station here, it's the third station we've ever had in town. This one was started being built in 1910 and was completed in, 1909. It was started and completed in 1910, back in the horse and carriage days.
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah. It's a beautiful building. As it came up, I'm like, this is tradition. This is that firehouse that you think of when you think of firehouses.
Absolutely. 2 stories. We have the brass pole, hose tower,
right.
The whole works.
Can we go take a look?
Absolutely.
Okay. What did we come into here?
This is our front office, which actually wasn't original to the building. It was added within the first few years of it being built. But this is the front office, or we call it our radio room for the most part, but all of us respond in this door to our gear and then onto the truck. So this is one of our firefighters, Mason Tompkins.
Nice to meet you, Mason. Thanks
He's our department secretary.
Yeah, thanks for inviting us out. And you're going to kind of trail us around and help us out as we go around?
Pretty much. I'm kind of the unofficial press guy for the department. So.
All right. All right, so let's go take a tour.
All right, cool. Let's do it.
So we're going to skip the engine bay and head upstairs?
We'll head upstairs and we'll show you the hall and quarters.
Okay. Wow, look at these staircases.
Yep.
This is back when staircases were made for a long time.
Exactly.
So as we come up the stairs, I noticed a lot of your history. It looks like you got one of the old fires.
Yeah, this was back in 1988, the Brighting Hotel fire. It actually stood kitty corner to our building here.
Okay.
It was a 4-story wood structure.
Wow.
Or one of the original buildings to town.
Okay.
It was out of service as a hotel at that time. It was under renovations, but early in the morning, they believed probably a transient person started it, trying to stay warm. But it went up in flames, and that was definitely one of the bigger fires ever in town.
Yeah. Sure, that was definitely a multi-call jurisdiction too.
They said it was warm. That was still the pull-up boot days.
Yeah.
And they had trouble standing between the station and the building because it was so warm.
Man. And then you got a nice trophy case up here. Can you tell me a little bit more about this?
Yeah, so all of these trophies came from the UP Firefighters tournament that's been held for the last 128 years.
Wow.
So yeah, these are original sterling silver trophies that our teams won over the years.
Right. Now I noticed, many of the trophies that we get nowadays are the pedestal trophies that have the little man on top or fire engine, something like that. These are actual sterling silver works of art that they created for trophies.
Absolutely, yeah. I can't imagine the money that they spent on these when they first, started doing them. I think a lot of these were year number 4 is when we won them for whatever reason, but yeah, they're solid silver. They polish up nice, but don't stay that way for very long.
Yeah. Now, do you guys still participate in those kind of parades?
Yep.
You have that still going
Actually,
on?
we do. We just hosted the 128th annual tournament here in town a couple weeks ago. We hadn't hosted it actually in 60 years, so it was kind of new for us. But it was a great event. Back then they had hundreds of departments around the UP. we're down to about, I think we had 35, 36
That's still
here this
pretty
year.
good. Around us, we're even getting down to the 10s and 15 range.
Oh,
so
yeah.
That's a double parade from what we even have.
Yep, and it's still a 3-day event. It's always the last full weekend of July, and it's still a good time.
That's awesome. And who do we have with us here?
This is my son, Alex. He's 10 years old.
You are the one that contacted me initially, right?
Yeah.
Nice to meet you finally. So, and you're going to be a fireman?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He definitely hangs out here with me as much as he can, and probably does just as much, if not more work than some of the guys do.
He probably knows a little bit more about the house.
He knows about everything. He knows all the numbers about the trucks and everything about the house.
Right, right. All the hiding spots.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Can we see the rest of your house?
Sure. So this way, we were always told that way back when this was built, the city did employ one full-time firefighter, a driver, janitor to take care of everything.
Okay.
That was long before the central dispatch days. So, you know, the old pull stations that ring into here and everything.
Right.
So we were self-dispatched for any kind of fire call.
Okay.
So until the mid-'80s, we had a driver. So this was the public area of the building, and the back half that we'll get to was the for them. But so this hall was always here for public use at the time. Not so much anymore, you know, with handicap standards and that kind of thing. But it is still open to all of our members and honorees if they need to have a big party. And
this is a really big space that you can utilize for a lot of different things, whether it's continuing education, maybe hosting a class, or even just social events. You can kind of move some of the tables and just kind of hang out.
Yep.
It's got the old wood floors you can feel, you know, almost feels like the old basketball court.
Exactly.
You know, it gives you that nice homey feeling.
Yep.
You know, a lot of times we go to these newer stations and you kind of lose that ambiance of homeness. You kind of get that sterile. They're beautiful stations, don't get me wrong.
Yep.
But you kind of lose that feel. As soon as I walked in this building, I can feel that, you know, you can smell that. You can almost taste that kind of feel of home.
It is definitely
when you're
different.
there.
And that's one of our biggest fears. You know, we always do what we can to maintain this building because we don't want to lose that, because we know our next station will be the, you know, the pole barn down the street.
Right.
Yeah, we want to keep this as long as we can, and to move from the horse and carriage days all the way up to the modern fire trucks is kind of impressive to me.
Yeah.
To be in the same building.
And the fact that the building was built big enough to house even the modern fire trucks.
Yes.
Someone was thinking way back then, we got to make it big enough so, you know, advancement's coming.
Yep. And actually, one of the cool things about the building is this was the first public building in town to be built with power.
Okay.
But they didn't trust it at the time, so you can't see any of them anymore, and they never had the actual light fixtures, but all of the walls are plumbed for the original gas lights.
Okay.
Because back then they just didn't buy into the electricity thing.
So what was the original foundation of the town?
So this is where iron mining was, my understanding, pretty much found in all of the United States began here.
Okay.
It was a big Native American area, you know, the original Father Marquette and those kind of people that pushed out west came here and found the iron, so we were surrounded by iron mines.
Okay, and just a couple days ago, we were up in Hubble, and they actually did copper.
Yep.
So a lot of mines throughout upper Michigan.
Yes, pretty much. This is kind of the eastern end of it, but from here west in the UP was all some kind of mining at one time or another.
Right, that's pretty cool.
Yep, and that led to a lot of why we are what we are, why we have trucks and things that happen like that.
Awesome. So can you talk me through what you have along the back side of the hall here?
So this is kind of some of our historical stuff. We've had a few long-standing pictures, and then these blackboards were actually all done last month by our historical society. They put stories together for us for when we hosted that tournament, so we had the boards up on display.
Right, right.
One cool piece that we have is, it was called a pung. They were sleds that were made. Ours was specifically for carrying hose. And it was made by a local blacksmith here in town back in the 1800s. And now you can actually see that piece on display at the Hall of Fame down in Arizona.
That's pretty cool.
So,
and the fact that I was in Hubble the other day, we did a station with them. They said you guys get close to 300 inches of snow a year up here. A sled makes sense.
Absolutely. Yep, there's some days we wish we still had them.
Yeah, most of us down south can't even fathom how much snow that actually is.
Yeah, we're fortunate that we get about half of what they do, but they definitely get dumped on here. And there's days where it's with modern trucks, it's almost impassable here.
Yeah.
So it's pretty interesting.
That's awesome. So tell me a little bit about the history, since they put it all together.
Yeah, we've had some, these are some of the major fires in town. Way back in the early 1900s, we had a hospital, local hospital, not very big, but it had, you know, patients in it, and there was actually a fire on the second floor. and one of the orderlies was helping evacuate patients, and he ended up dying, and he actually ended up getting a Congressional Medal of Honor for that.
Wow.
So that was a pretty big story.
Okay. And this is some of your mines, right?
Yep. We wouldn't be here without the iron mine industry. Some unfortunate events happened there at the Hartford mine, but there was an incident there where the neighboring mine had a fire. And in the suppression efforts, quite a few of the miners passed away in the neighboring mine just because of the way fire works and travels and smoke and things like that.
Now, I understood from looking around and stuff like that, you still have a lot of tunnels underneath Negaunee, is that correct?
Yes, pretty much all around the existing buildings of Negaunee they consider it caving ground or reclamation land now that some of it they've deemed safe. But yeah, we were pretty much surrounded by underground iron mines. So, you know, all the rock came out and they were held up by wood timbers and some steel at the end. But so yeah, every once in a while, some holes.
Is that an attraction for people to come up here and kind of do some caving? Are they allowed to do that as far as tourism?
No, it doesn't really bring in too much. Some of the area between us and Ishpeming has been opened up, but there's not a whole lot of artifacts left, and none of the tunnels are opened at all.
Okay. Now, when we were coming up to the fire station here, there's a lake out here. Is that Lake Superior, or is that
Nope,
an off branch?
That's Teal Lake.
Teal Lake. Okay.
Yep, and that's known for being the birthplace of the iron ore industry. The birch stump that fell over with iron ore was right on the shore. And if you look up to your right, it's currently the Negaunee High School, but that was the last of the mighty underground mines, the Mather B, and that went down over 1,500 feet below the lake and below town.
Okay.
So there's shafts and tunnels going in every direction from there.
Right. And you got some history of some of the old fires that you had. The fact that someone had enough sense to actually take those pictures.
Yeah, you know, the St. Paul's Church fire, a huge Catholic church. It's still one of the biggest buildings in town. This one, you know, back in the wood timber days, was built at the same location, you know, in the 1800s. And yeah, when it, of course, went up one night, you know, with candles burning and things like that.
Right. What's really unique about this that I'm seeing is all the people that are there. Yes. And I'm sure many of those back in the 1800s brought their buckets. And it's the Bucker Brigade to try to put that stuff out.
Absolutely.
And you need the entire town to participate in that. Putting out the fire out.
Oh yeah, it was definitely not the 30 members of the fire department that did that. And they actually did a fairly good job. As you can see, this is the one that was burning, and that house still stands. So they were able to save that one.
Yeah.
And several other fires, you know, typical downtown, you know, old era, everything's right next to each other. So it was, our department's done an amazing job of putting out a lot of the fires and saving most of downtown.
I'm sure you got a lot of education to pass on to the next generation. To say,
absolutely.
Hey, here's what we've done, here's what you've seen,
yep.
And here's how we can do it better in the future. So
yeah, this is why we do it that way.
This is absolutely beautiful.
There's a few more pictures here. This one, actually this small one here was our very first horse-drawn fire station here.
Okay.
That one we didn't even know existed until a few months ago from the Historical Society, actually.
Right.
That was just a single bay. And then we had this one here, which was a very nice brick station back again in the horse and era days. Back in 1898, actually, is when that picture was taken. Okay. And we do know the history of that one. At one point, it did succumb to a fire.
Wait, a firehouse burning down?
Yep.
As fire? So.
Yep. Once back, I believe it, the little bit I know about it, I think it was like kind of the Chicago fire thing where a lantern got kicked over in the hay, and that's all it took at the time.
Right, right.
But because of the mining industry, Negaunee was riddled with railroad tracks, so that was actually the reason for having two stations over the years, because of, you know, split by the railways, so you always had to be able to respond.
So this is now the third station?
Yep, this is the third station, and this one was actually built, I believe, before this one burnt down, because I know we've always had two, you know, except for the very early era, but we've pretty much always had two stations in town until now.
Right, right. Very cool history. I'm glad you were able to save this. That Historical Society did a fantastic job of displaying it. Maybe we'll put it up on a wall one day and find a permanent home for it.
That's the plan, yes.
Yeah. I'm following you.
So this is just into the main kitchen area.
Okay. This is a large kitchen too.
It is.
All the commercial commercial appliances for a big event.
Yep. We just put some money into this. So the upstairs, we kind of made a deal with the city. We have our Negaunee Firefighters Association. We are all the firemen and honorees that have been firemen here. but we have separate, you know, entities from the city. But we kind of take care of the upstairs. We kind of use this as our space.
Okay.
Obviously the big hall for training and things like that.
Right.
But yeah, we put some money into this last year and kind of got all the stainless steel and upgraded everything to
Yeah. And
have some
again,
good meals.
whoever designed this building, the original architect, had enough forethought to think, hey, we're going to need space. As we continue to grow, as Negaunee continues to grow, we're going to need space for these guys and gals in the fire service. And they built it into this.
Yep.
You didn't have to blow out a wall. You just basically redesigned it and updated it.
Absolutely, yep. There's been very minor changes to the hall over the 100 years, and so it's pretty neat.
That's a testament to that architect, whoever he was.
Absolutely. So this is something that's kind of neat. As far as we know, it's unique to the city of Negaunee, but we have our own china set that we use for our meals. We have quarterly meals up here for the active members and all of our honorees that served at least 10 years with the department.
Right.
So we just think this is kind of cool.
Yeah, the fact that you have some of those original plates and that kind of stuff is a testament to how well you guys actually take care of the equipment that you're allotted from the community. Whether it's your fire trucks, whether it's your house, or whether it's even just your silverware and plates. That's a real big testament to how well you guys are doing.
Yeah, we're definitely proud of all the history around here, and we do our best to take care of everything.
That's very cool. All right, do you have any kind of housing for firefighters that stay here?
So we don't have any full-time people that stay here anymore. This was actually the divide right here into what would have been the driver's quarters when they were on station.
Okay.
So we'll go this way.
So this almost becomes that home that the driver would stay in.
This was the home. This is the back stairwell.
Okay. And that's the curve you're talking about?
Yep, that's the curve. So my understanding was that with the horses, they wouldn't come up the curved stairs. So that's why they put those in a lot of fire stations to keep the horses from coming up.
That's awesome.
So we're moving into now, and this is one of the rooms that was revamped. This room right here actually would have been the bedroom quarters for the driver.
Okay.
Through this door, it's kind of a storage closet right now, but this is actually our original brass bowl.
Can we open it?
Yep.
Oh, I see it, yeah.
So unfortunately, it's out of service right now because of some electrical work that got done down on the garage floor that we'll see later. Hopefully one of these days we'll get it back into service. We think that would be pretty neat.
That would be pretty cool because you got an entrance from either side. You can get to that pole and down you go.
Yep. So then the back half of this room where this wall was opened up, this was actually originally the hayloft for the horses.
Okay.
Obviously not enough hay to store for the whole winter, but enough to keep the horses going a little bit at a time.
Right, and you can kind of see where the wall was taken down once the hayloft was no longer needed.
Yep, so we call this the lounge, so this is kind of where we come and hang out after meetings and fires and when we're here doing our thing.
And it got a little balcony to see out over the town a little bit.
Yep, and it is a balcony now that we use we have a grill out there, so when we do some cooking we can do that, but that was actually originally to hoist the hay bales up.
Yeah, and here's some even more trophies.
Yep. These are some of the more modern ones. A lot of these date back into the 70s and 80s. Most of them are different running team events. Once again, UP trophies. We have our Pioneer Days here in town, so we have one of the bigger tournaments for the county here. And then county fairs, 4th of July, there's usually some fire events at those too. Okay.
Now, are you all volunteer? Do you no longer have a paid person? That's what I'm understanding.
Yep, we are all paid on call now.
Okay.
So we are. That happened in the mid-'80s is when they got rid of the driver.
Okay. Explain to me paid on call. That's a little different concept than what we've seen on the channel before.
Okay, so paid on call, it's pretty much, we still call ourselves volunteer firefighters, but paid on call, we're at home, sleeping at home, eating at home. We carry pagers when it goes off, we come here. Okay. And we get paid while we're here.
Like a small stipend kind of thing for while you're here. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, that makes sense. Well, how many members do you currently have?
Right now, I believe we're at 19, which is drastically low for us. Okay. Historically and by charter, we're allowed 30 members and one for the chief. The chief is actually, a city position. Gotcha. So it's a little bit different than everybody else. But yeah, we're down to 19 now, so it's getting a little scary.
Here's the question for you. If I were to move to the UP and move in Negaunee and I want to volunteer, how do I go about getting a hold of your company and starting that process?
Monday nights are always a good night to stop by the fire hall. We pretty much every Monday of the month we have something going on here, whether it be our business meeting the first week, the second week is our maintenance night, and then third and fourth we have training nights. and a fifth, usually we just get away from our wives and come here and
Okay. We're used to that.
Yep.
All right. And then do you have any kind of online presence? Do you have any Facebook, Instagram?
We do.
Like that?
We have a association Facebook page, the Negaunee Firefighters Association. So we do a lot through there. The City of Negaunee also has one, and our applications can be found online at the City of Negaunee website.
Okay.
Or you can stop by here and get one.
And like most volunteer services, do I have to have education before I get here? Do I have to have my Fire 1 or any of that kind of stuff before I get here? Or can I join and then kind of work my way through?
You know, you can definitely join and work your way through. We always appreciate trained people, but we love to train. There's several of us on the department that are state instructors. So we help out with the county-wide class. Usually during the winter, we start at early January and goes through the end of May. That's usually the biggest chunk of time you need to dedicate for joining.
Okay.
That's getting you through your Michigan Fire 1 and 2.
Okay.
But after that, then it's kind of relaxed.
You're good to go.
Yep.
All right. So if you guys are watching and you're in the Negaunee area,
Negaunee, yep.
definitely stop by them on a Monday night, pick up an application, join them, give back to your community that you're now part of. They always can use the help. So before we move on, hit subscribe, hit notification, smash those like buttons, make some comments below, tell us what you think so far. We really appreciate it.
These are two of our historical photos. We try to keep a lot of them around, but back on January 12th of 1930 was the date of our first actual motorized fire truck. So they took a picture of the last day with the horses and the whole same crew with the first day with the new fire truck of the new era.
That's a pretty good way to do that.
Yeah, it was pretty neat.
I'm kind of sad for the horses though, you know?
Absolutely.
Hopefully they went to a good home and didn't just get out put to pasture.
Well, there's some good stories about that actually, because they were fairly young horses. So our DPW department still used them for their trash wagon.
Okay.
But they had an issue every time we would have, the siren would go off for a fire, the horses would run back to the firehouse. So I guess there was a few good stories of some spilled garbage around town.
Because they're ready to fight fire.
Yep, that's what they were trained to do.
Yeah.
When you can see when we go downstairs where their stalls were, but they pretty much got themselves to the front on their own.
I've heard that. We did a museum out in Reading area near us, and they said the same thing. As soon as the tones would go off, they would actually get in place and get ready to hook up. It's like they knew exactly what was going on.
Yep.
So.
Crazy what animals can learn.
So where are we headed to next?
So now we'll go into the engine bay, and the first thing we'll show you is actually the hose tower.
Okay.
It's kind of the big part of the station everybody can see.
Yeah, it almost looks like an old clock tower when I drove up.
Absolutely, there is some debate over that. The Historical Society, and there is at least a picture on a postcard out there that have a clock in it.
Okay.
I kind of dispute that a little bit because I've seen the clock and I've seen the top of the tower. Our original bell from our station 1 is up there that was made in the 1800s. So I don't believe there was ever a clock up there.
This is a little superimposed, Photoshop back
Yep, I think some Photoshop from back in the day. So yeah, we can still ring the bell. It's kind of one of the things a lot of new firemen do. If they're not afraid of heights, they'll climb up there. There's a whole ton of names on it. Everybody brings a pencil and writes on the bell.
That is actually pretty cool. Can we step inside of it?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
We still use it today. It's not, because of the heating system, it's not quite the same. Originally, this was a hot water, coal-fed heating system.
Okay.
So all these pipes you see were actually hot water.
Gotcha.
That helped dry it, worked like a big chimney.
Right.
But nowadays, we just, because we switched to forced air, when we're using it, we just got to leave the door open for a couple days.
Okay. But how does this work? Can you kind of describe to me how this all goes together?
Yeah, so we have this dog here, we call them.
Okay.
And this is what you just loop the hoses over. 50-foot hose. This will hold 4 2.5s.
Okay.
So you can, just halfway flip them over there, and then take your rope off.
And it's the old burlap rope.
Yep,
yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
And you can start hoisting it up.
Okay.
And actually, we call it a mule. So you can wrap it around there.
Right.
And then use that because the wet hose is pretty heavy.
Okay.
So then we hoist it all the way up and actually wound it when it gets high enough.
Yeah.
These ropes are actually wound right in.
Okay.
So then you can just hook
Tie that right to the cleat.
Yep, you just hook that on the cleat and you're all good to go.
That is pretty slick. And man, does that go all the way up there?
Yep, I'm not exactly sure where the measurement is, but it is 76 feet tall.
Okay.
And the cool thing about the top is also there's a oak flagpole up there. You can see the flag from all over town. We actually had it redone a couple years ago, so the ball on the top of it from The ground looks like about a softball. It was actually, when we had it on the ground, it was bigger than a basketball. But the cool thing about the flagpole is it was way back in the early 1900s when they made it, they actually turned it on a lathe somewhere because the bottom is a square 10 by 10 and it goes down into the framework of the roof, probably about 8 feet.
Okay.
So that was a huge piece of wood.
Well, I'm definitely going to try to get the drone up and get some shots of that.
Yeah.
And see how we can take a look at that. But this is pretty slick. So you have a couple hoses already up here to kind of see how it hangs.
Yep.
And these are what, 100-foot sections?
50-foot section each. Yep.
Okay. So, yeah.
So yeah, we can hang a lot of hose in here after a fire if we need to.
Right, right. And then you got the old wooden ladders that bring you all the way up. No wonder you're saying, if you're not afraid of heights, you go on all the way up.
There is kind of a lot of creaking involved when you go up there, so you gotta want to go up there.
It reminds me of that movie of National Treasure when they go down and find that kind of stuff. That's exactly what this feels like.
Yep.
Yeah,
it's interesting up there. You look out those top windows are up there where the circles are. You can see a lot of the area from there.
Right. Alex, you were gonna say something?
When those two people climbing up, you can see them bending, you can feel them bending.
Right. So maybe you should climb up and not me.
That's exactly it.
This is pretty slick.
And then this here, this red thing is actually our hose washer.
Okay.
So we use that after most of the calls. It's actually a homemade one, but works the same as the modern ones. Hook up a 2.5, open it up, and shove your hose right through, and we can clean everything before.
So it's got brushes and stuff in it. You just kind of pull it through as you.
Yep. Between the nozzles and a few brushes in there, we just shove them through, and they come out pretty clean.
Pretty ingenious. Okay, and then on the back side of your engine bay are the captain's quarters or the chief's.
The chief's office. Yeah.
All right. All right. So as we make our way past some of your trucks here,
yeah,
I
our
see
trucks.
That your gear is on the outside.
Yep, this is where we store most of our gear. The white helmets, of course, are the officers into the safety. All our firefighters wear black. Okay. As far as helmets. But yeah, our gear is around the edges of the stations. We don't have a dedicated gear room or anything like that.
I like though that they're on the racks. You can move those around and make sure the floor stays clean and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
We've seen some that actually have the permanent, wooden racks that people built, which would still work. Yep. But those are a little easier to clean up underneath.
Yeah, it definitely does make it nice when we shine up the floor and do things like that.
Okay. And back here is that curved stair, so the horses don't go up.
Yep.
So originally the horses were in this area. Going out, or?
Not quite. So this was the apparatus bay, and this back here through these windows is where the horses' stalls were actually kept. Okay. So when the bells went off when there was a fire, they would be moved from the front, mostly on their own after they were trained. Right. And then they would come up here and hook up to whatever apparatus they were pulling.
Okay, so like the hand pumpers we saw maybe in the New Mexico, or Mexico, New York, they would come around and that's where this would be stored.
Yep. So originally, I'm not sure what we had for hand pumpers. I've never seen anything that far back. I know we had a steamer engine at one time. Okay. And then the hose carts, we had several with wheels, and then that pung that was the sleigh. Right.
Okay. So right behind you is the chief's office?
Yep, that's just our chief's office. Nothing exciting in there. Kind of modernized with the computer and everything.
Sure. But okay. There's the pole that comes down.
Yep. Okay. Back here is the brass pole that you saw upstairs between the kitchen and the original living quarters. Right. Like we said, we have this nice electrical box here that we're hoping to get moved out of the way in the next few years so we can start kind of using this again.
With the conduit, that shouldn't be too bad to move out. Just unconnect it, maybe put it on the other wall or bring it around. Yep. So, yeah, that'd be fun to go back down.
Absolutely.
So this is where the horses used to stay.
Yep. So this was the barn area of the station when it was originally built. Okay. The cement floor was added later. We believe it was actually just a dirt or possibly wood floor. Okay. Some very early pictures of the fire hall when it was the wagons. The actual hall was wood floored. Okay. We don't have any records of when the terrazzo was put in. But at one point it switched to that.
Is there a basement to this place?
Yeah, we can show you that. It's kind of neat. Okay. That floor is anywhere, we've had reports from 10 to 16 inches thick of concrete. Right. With the terrazzo finish on top, and downstairs you can see the woodwork that they did to support that when they poured the floor.
Right, but it definitely supports your tankers and your engines. And there's no, I didn't feel any bounce at all.
No, it's pretty neat. And when you're down there every once in a while, you're like, boy, I'm under a lot of weight. It kind of makes you think.
Okay, so this is just a single bay, or is there two bays?
No, it's just a single bay. We've kind of turned it into our ladder bay, mostly because of the back of this actually isn't at ground level, so we're about 4 feet above the road behind us. Okay. So there's a ramp on each side, and currently this is the only truck that we can actually get up those ramps because of the belly pan.
Okay, okay. So tell me what this truck is, since we're already here.
So this is our ladder truck. It's kind of, we call it the Frankenstein truck. It's got a 50-foot telesquirt on it. That's actually, we think, from about the mid-60s.
Okay.
It's been remounted several times. It's currently on a 93 Kodiak chassis. And then back in 2014, we actually had the back rebuilt again by Red Power Diesel out of the Appleton area. And so we had it refurbed.
Have you always had ladder trucks?
Yes, we have always had ladder trucks in town because of the 3-4-story buildings of the downtown area. A lot of the original houses were 2.5, 3 stories. We still, all of our schools are still at least 2 stories.
Okay.
So we definitely have a need for that.
So you're a truck company and engine company.
Yep, and we run a quint just because, other than the original ladders when they didn't have pumps at all, we've always had quints just to have that extra pump there.
Nice, nice.
But yeah, basically this is kind of turned into our storage area.
Sure, you have to have a place for your CBAs, your hoses, and everything else. It's a good place to do that.
Yep, originally there was a garage door here. We're hoping to put that back at the same time when we remodel.
Okay,
So
almost make it a pull-through.
Yep, that's the idea.
Yeah.
We have our own SCBA fill station so we can fill our bottles here after a fire.
Okay.
We do call in our sheriff's office actually runs a technical rescue unit, so during the fires, we actually call them to the scenes and they can fill right off of their truck.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So you don't do rescue then through the fire department?
Nope, not a whole lot. We do have a set of jaws and, I should say, spreaders and cutters on our truck. But for the most part, we always keep that county rescue unit coming. They have a lot more training, a lot more of the equipment, the airbags, the struts, a lot so stabilization stuff.
Okay, almost like the ESU from New York.
Yeah, very
police
similar
kind of take
situation.
over some of that aspect.
Yep.
And take it from there. Okay. So now we're going back out to the main engine bay. Can you tell us kind of the trucks that you have here?
So we kind of have them all crammed in right now. We have this ambulance, I think it's the mid-2000s, and we don't actually use it as an ambulance. It's an equipment hauler, personnel hauler.
Okay.
We strip the cot out of it. I mean, we have some first aid gear on there, but we have extra air packs, extra bottles,
So it's a utility truck?
Yep, utility truck.
Okay,
it goes,
good way to do that.
Yep, goes to pretty much all our calls. If you open those doors, we have stacks of traffic cones in there for traffic crashes on the highway and things like that.
Do you guys have things such as fire police up here? Because where I come from, fire police take care of the traffic control and scene controls.
No, a lot of our police departments are short-staffed. It might only be 1 or 2 people.
Okay.
So kind of depending on the call and where it is, sometimes we do all the traffic, sometimes we're in with them.
Okay.
Just kind of depends on the day.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of unique to us as we have that fire police unit that's attached to a fire station.
Yeah,
and they take care of a lot of that kind of stuff. We've done a couple of them. Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania has a really good traffic unit if you're ever taking an interest in that. All right, and then you got a brush truck?
Yep, kind of new to us. We bought it from a neighboring department when they put it out of service truck-wise. It's a 1985 Ford diesel. And then we've had this slide-in 250-gallon tank.
Right.
With its own pump and foam system.
Okay.
So we do use it for brush fires. Like I said before, all of our housing area is kind of surrounded by caving grounds, which is mostly wooded because they didn't want people in them for so many years. So we get a fair amount of brush fires, and we can't necessarily go in there and fight them. We just have to keep them away from the houses.
Right, right.
'Cause a lot of that area is dangerous, so we try to stay out of there.
Okay.
Back to the front, we have our mainline engine and then our tanker that we use quite a bit.
Okay, so what's your mainline engine?
It's currently a 1996 Freightliner chassis. It's a Pierce with a 1,250 gallon a minute pump.
Okay.
Midship pump, 5-person cab.
Nice.
So we have officer, driver, and then room for 3 in the back with the air pack seats.
Okay. It's a good setup.
Yep, it served us well. We actually have a new truck on order. We signed the contracts last year for it, and then it sounds like November we go into Pierce for our build meeting.
Okay.
And then hopefully around this time next year
It's
we'll be
amazing how
receiving
long it takes to get those trucks. You know, you said you signed a contract a year ago. It's going to be another year before you even get that truck.
Yeah.
So it's very important for fire stations to maintain what they got until they get that replacement.
Absolutely. We had some issues with this one with its annual pump test last year, and you know you don't want to spend the thousands of dollars to fix this one, but at the same time you have to because it's still a year out, so you don't want to go too long without a
So having
engine.
that business plan and the replacement schedule is very important to maintain and stick to, because those kind of things are going to happen.
Absolutely. You definitely have to think ahead, you know, an accident or you know, just something breaking. It's not like you're going to just run out and buy a fire truck. And trying to convince your local boards to spend $1 million pretty much per truck,
right,
and telling them they're not going to see it for 4 or 5 years is kind of difficult for them to
right,
swallow.
To wrap their head around.
Yep.
Okay. And this is your tanker?
Yep, so this is a 2005 Pierce. It's a 2,000 gallon tank and a 500 gallon a minute pump. So we kind of got the pump on there for 2 reasons. One, if we need to fill from a draft site, it can do it by itself. Or we use it a lot in our alleys because it's kind of a low hanging truck. So we can put it in an alley, use it for structural protection or anything like that.
Right.
With a few hand lines off of it.
Right, and this carries what, 3 up front?
Yep, 3 up front. We always try to have at least 2 in it.
Okay.
But yeah, we can take 3.
So are you part of a tanker task force at all in the area?
So we're not quite as formal as having a tanker task force, but our neighboring Negaunee Township, and then Ishpeming City doesn't have any tankers, but Ishpeming Township, just a few miles to the west of us, they have 2 of them because they're a very rural department. So usually if one of us has a fire, all 3 of us are there. And we'll actually make it down to Marquette Township down there for tankers also.
Okay.
So we all know who we need to call, and we just kind of call them and we're who we need.
Yeah, it's all that pre-planning and knowing your area and all that kind of stuff makes a big difference.
Yep.
Does this have like porta tanks and stuff on it too?
Yep, so we have 2 of them. One on the back here, there is a hose bed up on top of it.
Okay.
So we have one 2,000 gallon tank on there, and then on the other side there's a second 2,000 gallon tank one. So when we're fighting fires, we'll run a dual drop tank system.
Okay.
Where we can feed from one to the other.
Gotcha.
Gives us a little bit more water on the ground. And so that way, and not all of us, we have a 2,000 gallon, but some of the neighboring ones are 3.
Okay.
So that way it's makes it a little bit faster turnaround time.
Now, we're talking the temperatures that you talked about before and all the snow. Do you carry like any augers or anything like that if you need to tap into something?
Yep, a lot of the departments, we don't, but a lot of the departments carry ice augers for tapping into the lakes in the winter so they can get water, a water source that way. We all carry torches because after hooking up a hose to the backs a few times,
right,
you know, they're completely iced up.
Right.
So we'll usually have to unthaw them. And
yeah, it's a different way of thinking of, you know, fighting fires. You know, down south we don't have to worry about that stuff. We have other issues, maybe overheating issues that we worry about.
Absolutely.
You guys have freezing issues, so
yep,
it's kind of cool to learn how that all works together, and you guys know how to handle it.
Yep, something that we deal with every year.
Yep. So what is behind us?
So I'll let Alex take over for this one. It's one of the antique trucks.
Okay.
That, the Firemen's Association actually owns it, but it was original to the city.
Okay, maybe we can do a station rigs on this one. You think we can do that?
Great idea.
Alex, would you walk us around doing station rigs?
Yeah.
All right. So if you guys are paying attention, pay attention to another video coming out because we're going to do a full station rigs on this antique. So do us a favor, hit subscribe, hit notification, smash those like buttons, make a comment, tell us what you want to see in the video. Maybe we can get to it. So once again, this was Heroes Next Door. We're doing a station cribs with Negaunee. Did I say that right? Yep. Fire station, way up in the upper peninsula of Michigan. If you guys are ever traveling, this is a great place to come visit. They got a lot of cool things to see. So thank you very much, Brian, for inviting us out. Alex, we appreciate it. And Mason, thank you for walking us around. We really appreciate everything that you guys do and letting us come see this. So hit subscribe, hit notifications, smash those like buttons. We really appreciate it, and we'll see you again next week.